kind of obsolete, archaic, but we're going to be talking about, and I hate the phrase, mission statements. Is there anything more boring than a mission statement besides the music that's in an orthodontist office?
Only if you think of it in the traditional way, and we're gonna change your thinking today, Brian. So it'll
Yeah.
become the most exciting thing. You'll have it on your wall, right? You're gonna have it on your notebooks you hand out to people. Your
You're gonna
employees
be
will make
telling your
fun of
kids
you.
about it. You're gonna be telling
Hey,
your wife about it,
dude,
you know,
yes.
and yeah, it really is. Well, I looked it up. 34.8 million small businesses are in America right now.
Boom.
And
I love it.
35, so basically 35 million small businesses are in America right now. They employ almost 50% of the workforce of the private workforce. My question to you is, number one, what are you going to do to get them to be part of your company rather than the other 34 million? And then part two of that question is, what are you going to do to get your customers to come in? What are you going to do that's going to differentiate you, to make you stand out from the other 34.8 million small businesses that are vying for their dollar and their support? And
And I would
that
add one
is
more.
right. Go ahead.
I would add one more. What are you going to do to make this something that you're interested in, right, for years to come?
Right.
And if you don't do those things, so it's as much about yourself as it is for your employees, your coworkers, and your customers and clients. But that's why this is so exciting.
Right.
You go back to that tension triangle I keep bringing up, right? It's who owns the company, stakeholders, shareholders, excuse me, the coworkers, and then your clients or customers. And done right, right? If we do this right, this will compel all three of those to move forward to go after that mission.
Oh, yeah. And if it is done right, it is going to engage your employees like never before. They're not going to want to leave. So not only will it solve your acquisition problem, but it'll solve your retention problem, which in these cutthroat industries is a huge, huge expense. So this is really, really important. One thing right off the bat, I hate the word mission statement. I like to call it motivating statement, because this is all about motivating. If it is just your plaque on the wall, big deal. We do nothing with plaques except dust them off. That's all it is for. So we have to stay away from that. It has to be something. So the one thing that we're going to dive into is everything we say will be action oriented, number one, and number two, it will be flexible and changing all the time. So this mission statement quote, this what I call motivating statement, is not something that stays put and is chiseled in stone. It is not. It has to be changing generally every year, maybe every 2 or 3 years on a long end, but usually you want to change it and update it every year. What do you say?
So I think you're spot on, and the lack of this mission statement is what causing a lot of issues for companies. So the action orientation is get it down on paper, and if you already have one or you think you have one, pull it out. I think the other thing we're going to do today, Brian, is rather than there's vision, mission, purpose. There's all these things, and we've been talking about North Star. We're going to talk mission in a general way, like we said, a paragraph, bullet points, whatever it is. But it's starting to paint the picture of what do you do and where do you want to take your business. That's compelling for you to stay in the business, for your coworkers to stay with you, and for your customers and clients to be attracted to you and stay with you. So we don't want to get into all the variations, all the things. It's let's get something written down first, and then to your point, I would say this first draft, you'll change it before the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things I was thinking about as I was writing down my notes is this is not a new concept. In fact, it's almost Yeah, 2000 years ago, that the old book of James said, do not be double-minded. A, a person who's double-minded, and I was like applying it to the business, a person or a business that's double-minded should not expect to receive anything because it's unstable in all of its ways. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so true. What we want to do is create this one, what you call North Star, this mission, this motivating statement that's going to keep us focused in on that one thing. And then we can break it down from there and act and receive what we have set our goals on to. So this is not something, it's not a brainchild of mine or yours. Other people have articulated it differently. We're going to talk about Donald Miller, who did a great job of simplifying this down and kind of looking at it differently. But this is meant to be to keep you and your business from being double-minded, from being tossed around by all of our different circumstances, industry experts, new technology, new things going on. While that's important, it can't affect where we're going in our trajectory. And if we don't know, what Yogi Berra say, yeah, if you don't know where you're going, chances are you'll get there, right? Something like that.
Yeah, and what I like about this is we've talked about this multiple or numerous episodes, Brian. We're creating a gap. We're essentially in this mission statement. We should be talking about where are we going, and that creates a gap from where we are today. So to your point, you've got to be revisiting that. But the key is going to be is once you have that destination where we're going to go, then we can start to talk about what are the things that we need to remove, what are those obstacles we need to overcome to be able to get towards that mission. And as we start taking action on those, that's why you're saying it may change because of what we're learning along the way, or our destination may still be solid. It's just going to be a little more difficult to get there because of the obstacles. No worries, right? We're going to experiment and we're going to take actions against those obstacles to get us closer to that North Star.
Yeah, so it should change. And as we're going to see as we write this and brainstorm it, it'll change because we may have set our goal a little too high and we need to adjust it based on economic exterior and interior battles that we're facing. Or we may have just crushed them and been like, wow, we set it a little bit too low. Let's jump it up. Or we may have to just kind of pivot a little bit. So it's a great point. One of the things you touched on, and I thought it was great, was money cannot be the sole motivator. It is not the sole motivator of you and your business or me and my business. It cannot be. Why? Because our paycheck only comes once a week or once every 2 weeks. That's when we're motivated. Oh man, that was nice. Okay. What happens the other 6 days of the week, the other 13 days when you're waiting for your next paycheck? That's why this is so important, because it keeps us motivated and moving towards the same direction, the same goal. So this is great.
So Brian, do you have a threshold? So most business plans are a year typically, right? And a lot of them will be with the calendar year. So as we go up to the North Star and we start talking about the North Star, what typically is that time horizon you like to look at? So when you say, hey, we're looking at the future, how many years out do you try to look at and say, hey, that's how far I want to go out, and then my business plan will be built for the next year to start moving towards that? Do you have a time frame that you like to use? Is it like 3 years, 5 years out?
Yeah, I think it depends on the circumstances, and put it this way, if we use a baseball analogy, it depends on the pitcher I'm facing. It depends on how many people are on base and what the score is. So if I'm like, hey, if nothing is going wrong, the game's not on the line, and we're up, I may be swinging for the fences. I may be dreaming 3, 5, 10 years down the road. But if I am in a clutch situation where, man, I need that base hit to drive them in the bottom of the ninth, I'm thinking, well, 90 days, 1 year, So it depends on the situation. That's the way I look at it. Now, I think it's vital that we have our, like I think Jim Collins called it, our big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yes.
That is critical because it keeps the dreamer in each of us alive. And the vast majority of small business owners are visionaries, and that's instrumental to keeping them motivated, and at the same time keeping them a little bit more disciplined too.
Yeah, I like that. In what we've been talking about, since day one is you create that vision, that North Star. You know, would may that change? It could, but what typically changes is the plan to go after that, right? As we learn and overcome obstacles, or we identify obstacles that, oh boy, I can overcome that much faster than I thought. So when we say that we're building a plan, a lot of times that whatever that North Star is, whatever that mission is that we put out there, it needs to be aspirational, right? It needs to
Yeah.
be far enough out to say, hey, this is where because if it's not, there's no compelling reason to change your business as it operates today. There's no compelling reason for your customers to come to you because it doesn't appear that you're innovating and changing with what's going on. So to say that you can't plan that far out, what we're saying is set the North Star. The plan is what changes as we try to overcome the obstacles to get to that North Star versus the North Star keeps changing. And you still want to take a look at it every quarter and then every year. Is
Absolutely.
that still our destination?
Right.
But done well, it typically is, especially if you've been in the market for some time. If you've been, to your point, you've been in the hardware business for years, you can pretty much lay something out there that can be pretty solid in terms of the destination. But your approach with AI, with all these new stuff coming, new products that are coming out, new services coming out, the approach to get there will change and could
It
change
has to be
rapidly.
changing. It has to be changing. And if it is changing, it tells you that your organization is healthy. That's
Yep.
a great way to say, to kind of take the temperature reading on how healthy is my organization. Well, is it changing? Are we pivoting and making the necessary moves that we need to do, and while keeping ourselves aligned to the primary mission, the primary motivating statement? Because let's face it, the only thing, anything that does not move is dead, basically,
Yes.
and you don't want to die in business. So we talked about Donald Miller, just mentioning him, and you and I have sat under him, and I like his mission statement approach. There's a few different changes that I was going to add on to him. I'd like to get your opinion on it too.
Sure.
There's three things that he talks about that's in his mission statement that is not in the vast majority. And that is, number one, 3 economic objectives. Number 2, a deadline for those objectives. And number 3, a clear reason or explanation for the why for those 3 economic objectives. What do you think about that? Too simple, too complicated? What are your thoughts? Get
I think it's a
critical,
great,
Mike.
yeah, I think it's a great start. And when you talk about economic measures, they don't have to be top line revenue,
Right.
right? So it can be, but that when we write that mission statement, those economic measures are in addition to it. So it anchors the mission along with some goals that you have for the organization. And when I first heard that, we sat through the training, I thought that was brilliant. And then we'll
Yeah.
talk about the other pieces that really create action and
Right.
traction behind this mission statement. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
100% aligned.
So,
Still use that today.
so I did some homework, and yeah, I did homework, Mike. So
Whoa!
yeah, yeah, I thought I'd just throw that meatball right down the center of the plate and let you hit it over the fence. You want to hear a couple mission statements?
Love to hear him. Now,
Okay.
Is this for Brian Young Inc.?
No,
Layosh
these
Consulting?
are multi-billion-dollar corporations
All
in their
righty.
mission statements. Okay. I'm not gonna. Hey, I'm not going to leave the names out either. Okay. So you can get read and be like, oh, dang, we're going to have to edit this. All right. Here it is.
Why don't you leave the company name out if you can, and then we'll try to guess who it is.
Okay. Okay. We'll do that. All right. I'm going to give you this is a hint. Um, a lumber do-it-yourself company, do-it-yourself hardware, or do-it-yourself at home type of building material company. So the blank is in the home improvement business, and our goal is to provide the highest level of service, the broadest selection of products, and the most competitive prices. Who said that?
The boring company called Home Depot.
You nailed it. You nailed it. You didn't even see these notes because I didn't want to share them with you ahead of time. The Home Depot said that. Okay. So, not that that's bad, but I am not motivated by this. I don't
No,
believe that any of and I like Home Depot. They're fine. They've always been a competitor of ours, and I love to have competition. So, but this is not anything that
it's not a
rallies the
differentiator.
troops. This isn't a differentiator. This doesn't rally the troops. And with us small business owners, we have to rally the troops because we don't have an army. you know, we we have a few Navy SEALs. That's all we got. And that's what I would always share with our team. So
I think
here's another one.
the other thing,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one other thing, Brian. You could put Lowe's or Menards in there,
Yeah.
and they could be the same thing. So I think that's the problem with, and I'm sure that the other ones you're going to read are going to be very similar. That's not compelling. That's not why I go there. In fact, Home Depot, if I remember right, when they first, I forget, there was a change in leadership, and their big thing was going to be bring in retired um, uh, electricians, plumbers to be in the stores. Well,
Right.
that didn't last, and
Right.
so we have Menards started in the state of Wisconsin, so we have
Yep.
Menards all over. That's my go-to. Love Menards. I think Home Depot serves a lot more of the professionals, the contractors. I could be wrong, but go on to the next one. But I think we're going to
Yeah.
see a pattern here.
So my point is let's not take anything away from these companies. You can still be a multi-billion-dollar company and have a mission statement that isn't worth jack. Okay. That doesn't motivate it. So, but it makes it a lot tougher. But you have to have a whole system built around in spite of that statement that's being made. So here's another
It sounds
one.
like I call them table stakes. If you
Yeah.
listen to what they said, if you look at those statements, those are all table stakes to be in the business today, I
Yeah.
would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's one. It's a computer company. It's a PC company. Blank mission is to be the most successful computer company in the world at delivering the best customer service in markets we serve.
Wow, wow. Are they still in business?
Yeah. They're multi-billion-dollar. They did have to reinvent themselves, though.
No
Starts
clue.
with a letter D.
Not Dell.
Yes.
Dell's better than that, man.
I
Well, they used to be.
know. Okay. Now,
You notice we're losing sponsorships left and right here. Our potential
took
sponsorships.
I took one. I'll read it to you afterwards. It took me 45 seconds to write it. How many days and how many brains did it take to write those two statements, do you think, by Home Depot and Dell? I mean, we're talking probably weeks and a whole group of people making sure, oh, we can't use this word. It may be offensive. We can't use this word. It may be, we're going down a track that we don't want to do. It's got to last forever, these statements. We're taking all that aside. These statements are meant to be something that changes and that gets better as we get better too. So again, let's get back to the point and how you write it. So 3 economic objectives. That's what Donald Miller says. Start off with 3 things that you want to achieve. And I remember when I first heard him say that, I'm like, that's going to always be changing. Yes, it is going to have to be revisited and changed and updated. If it changes too much and is updated too much, it means probably that your economic objectives are too short term and you need to lengthen your and open your view. Okay. So
Absolutely.
the only thing I would say that that's not necessarily covered is have an overarching goal first that just covers the economic objectives. Okay. If you can do that, that's the only thing I would add to what Donald Miller has uh, so aptly put was if you can have three economic objectives, yes, but have an overarching goal right off the bat just to capture them. Okay. So that's number one. Number two was a deadline, having a clear deadline. Why do you think that's important? Hit me with that.
Yeah, deadlines drive action, right? It gives immediacy to it. So if you've got a vision, a mission that's out 3 to 5 years, and you're taking action against it, without a deadline, it's like, well, okay, when is this supposed to get done? The other thing I like about deadlines, Brian, is once you start to stack up, like every company does, dozens and dozens of initiatives, and you put dates to them, it becomes obvious that you do not have the resources available internally to get those things done. So this gets us back to what are the critical few things. And that's why Donald Miller says, let's look at three economic objectives. That's it. Those three can branch out, right? And you can break those down further into departmental goals to support it. But without a date, you don't have that immediacy, and that date then starts to drive, let's go after the critical few that are going to drive us towards that mission.
Yes, absolutely. I had down the reason you need a deadline in your motivating statement is because it does three things. Like you said, it drives action, it increases accountability, and it keeps the statement top of mind. You are always keeping it top of mind because of the action and the accountability associated with it. So absolutely, I think that's great. The one thing I would say is it is it's nice if you can have a supporting task associated with it. That tends to go well. If not, we're going to cover that the next episode where we go into further details on how to support this. And what we want to do is we want to give this motivating statement legs and traction so that it's constantly part of the organization and it's constantly having an impact on people, positive or negative, because accountability can go two ways. For the person that's not doing their job, man, it gets kind of hairy and it's negative for them. For the person that is doing their job, it encourages them and pushes them forward. So very, very important.
I think a lot of times you'll see, and we've talked about this in other episodes, the focus, and I'm going to call it sort of an undue focus on top line growth, grow. And we've talked about if you don't have the operating earnings
Yep.
that deliver true profits from your business, maybe it's not so much about revenue. And I think for many they're going to say revenue or some percentage of growth revenue, but if you got single digit operating profits, one of those economic measures may be to improve that single digits, closer to, 10% is a nice threshold to get to.
Right.
And you're at 10%. The nice thing about that is there's a lot forgiven. If you overinvest in inventory, you hire too early, with 10% operating earnings, right? Those profits can help cover that while you grow out of that inventory and have that growth.
Absolutely.
But sometimes thinking about something other than that top line revenue really speaks to, you're really looking at how you're levering your income statement and knowing based on where you want to go, where in your profit and loss statement do you have to make improvements to be able to get you closer to that. And so you should be thinking beyond just that top line number.
Right. And this is why the motivating statement is so important, is the fact that it can be flexible without changing all of your core values. And that's the key. For instance, let's say you are in an industry that is in a recession now. You 6 months ago, you set your motivating statement with the one of your financial goals was to grow your top end by 10%. Man, you guys have reevaluated. There's no way that's going to happen. How do you pivot? All right, let's work on increasing our gross profit margin rather than our top end. All right, so let's make ourselves more efficient. Great. All right, let's update that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And when you do that, it just shows that, man, we are just pivoting. We're doing this because it needs to be done. This isn't changing the core of who we are. This is just keeping it going. And that makes a huge, huge difference, both on the morale of the team involved, because they're like, oh, wow, that's great. Leadership feels our pain, knows what's going on, has a finger on the pulse. So this is all fantastic stuff.
Right. So let's get back to the one pager from Donald Miller. So we've got our 3 economic objectives backed up by our mission statement. So how do we move then forward into the other 2 pieces of that one pager, Brian? And those 2 pieces are the things that really start to drive traction and action.
All right, say that again.
So I was saying that once we have that mission statement that includes the 3 economic objectives, right? Then we move down on the one pager from Donald Miller from Business Made Simple.
Right.
We get into key characteristics and the critical actions. You want to talk about those 2 pieces?
No, that's what we're going to get into next week.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
no, so we're still on. I'm still hashing out the mission statement part of like the 3 economic objectives, the deadline, and then just that last part is the touchy feely part, which we can sometimes forget about. Being a method man, me being a money man. Maybe that's what we should have called it.
Oh, don't miss what's the term for it? I'm as much a money man as anybody. However, my belief is focus on those other things and the money comes.
Right. Absolutely. The last part is the soft part, and that's the why. And this is the part that resonates with your team's hearts with, oh, wow, this makes complete sense. We're not just about selling. We're about doing this, and accomplishing this. So think of this as the end result that you want every customer, every stakeholder, every person that interacts with you, employee also, to feel, to come away with. And that's what that is. And that's where it gets really fun. The point is, all of these things can be done very, very quickly and simply. Yeah, we can change some of the semantics and some of the wording on it, but you can have an incredible motivating statement in 15 minutes. I did one in 45 seconds here while I was just before we went live. I'll share with you my core values that I had at our hardware store was, this was back when we hired a bunch of young people all the time, because those are the only ones that wanted to work when they, probably because I was immature and they were too. They said, the big word then was sick. Oh man, that's sick. So we use the acronym. If you're sick, you're doing the right job. If you're always serving, always improving, always caring, and always knowing, or looking to increase your knowing part, then you will never be fired from here. I said, are you being sick? Oh, that's right, man. Yeah. And then everybody had to have that memorized: serving, improving, caring, knowing. Now, that was nothing that was crazy. However, it did get us to the right point. And it did keep us all right. Yeah, you're right. I'm not increasing on my product knowledge or my, process knowledge. So that really helped us. And it's very simple. It was just, what do I stand for too?
That resonates. I was looking up some I would say, compelling missions. And so Patagonia, company I forget
Yeah.
how long this has been around, but their mission statement is, we're in business to save our home planet. And then they go down to three distinct things that are part of that statement: distinguished quality, improving lives, and saving the planet. Now,
Mm,
if you work for Patagonia, you darn well know what their mission is, right? You understand it. And so that what you just stated, in a small business, small hardware store, that SICK acronym, that aligns very well with that. So Patagonia is, I don't know how big Patagonia is. I can look it up quick, but I'm sure they're a
yeah.
billion dollar plus company. But those are the ones that you can look at and say, hey, there's the Home Depot type of mission, and then there's the Patagonia type. And I
Right.
would say you're going to land somewhere in between there. But if it doesn't distinguish you, what are you doing to create value in the world, right?
Right.
For yourself, for your coworkers, and for your clients and customers. And if it's not, I don't see how, again, you can come in, work every day, punch the clock, do those things, but businesses that aren't looking at things this way, Brian, are going to find themselves behind the eight ball very quick here,
Yeah. Let me
because they're not anticipating the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me share with you the mission statement I wrote for Bob's Bicycles. And it took less than a minute. And tell me what you think. Let me read Home Depot's again first so that you're not too tough on me. Home Depot is in the home improvement business, and our goal is to provide the highest level of service, the broadest selection of products, and the most competitive prices. Okay, here's Bob's Bicycles. We at Bob's Bicycles will share the passion of biking by being the best bike shop in the valley. We will grow our top end revenue by 20%, our customer base by 10%, and increase our service department tickets by 20% in the next 12 months, because everyone deserves to be healthy and enjoy our beautiful valley on a bike in their hands, not in the shop.
Dude, that's not
That's it.
bad.
It's simple. It's not perfect, but it was 45 seconds. My point is, follow this framework. You'll have fun with it. You'll be like, "Wait a second, that sounds pretty darn good." Now, crazy thing is, and we won't get into it, but you can turn your motivating statement into an absolute killer help wanted ad. I did that, and I did that for a large $100 million company, and they were blown away. I said, just let me just do this while we're on the phone. And they were blown away. I said, yeah, you just follow this. You tell them about what you stand for, what you love, who you love. And that just handles it.
It's amazing. And so when we talk about alignment, right, and we've talked about building our responsive operating system, it starts with that North Star. Well, hiring and retaining good employees is a critical part of that. And if you state who you are in that ad, because if you would just say, hey, here's the role, we need a customer
Yeah.
service rep, we need a director of operations, whatever it is, they understand is sort of the context of the role, but they don't understand in what kind of business am I going to be
And that's
working
what they
in,
want. That's what they
right?
really want to know before they remember they're committing their 5 days of their lives to you every week. This is a big deal for them if they're looking at a help wanted ad. They don't just want to know about pay. Yeah, that's important, but it goes far beyond that. So
What
this is
bank are
great.
you working for? 5 days a week? What are you talking about, dude?
5 days a week. I know. I know. I'm stuck in the 80s, man. All right. Anything else before we close up?
No, this has been great, and I would say, if you have something written down already, pull it out, wrap it with the three economic objectives, and does it have that feel of compelling you personally as the owner, as the president, to move the business forward? Will it compel your coworkers, your employees to stay with you, attract them, and then to stay with you? And will it be compelling enough to to keep your customers loyal to you, but also bring additional customers and clients in?
Right.
And that's a quick test. And if it isn't, then sharpen it up a little bit. But even if you start with what you have today add the 3 economic objectives, and then we'll start to talk about the additional pieces in our next episode. We can start to build basic blocking and tackling that allow you to build a plan to support your business going forward towards that mission.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so, and if you're set in an organization where you're like, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to get the mission statement to change, then create a motivating statement and call it that. And then announce this, talk about this at every meeting. And we're going to go into details on that in the next session. But this is the put it this way, this is the hockey player. And next week we're going to be talking about the skates. So it's going to help us really get some traction on that ice, and we're going to be moving quickly. You know, you being from Wisconsin, I figured I'd do a frozen tundra analogy. So
I appreciate it.